Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name's Andy R, and this is the Brotherhood of Men, a channel solely dedicated at getting you men out there the best outcome in your lives, even if it's a little bit better than it is. And today's subject, I want to talk to you, well, first of all, what does a woman and a condom have in common? They both spend far more time in your wallet than they ever do on your todger. Come on, that's a good one. But the thing is that it brings me to the subject, which is far more truth in jest. Now that phrase, far more truth in jest, is a very old phrase. It goes back to some of our earlier writings. I think it's mentioned in Shakespeare. But it goes back to times when we used to have the lord of the manor, the kings, and all the rest of it, who would employ a jester, or a fool, it was sometimes called. You've seen depictions of this probably yourself, where they've got the floppy hat with the bells and the stick with the bladder on, where they go around hitting the lords and that. Now, over time, this has been thought that this person was a tumbler, was an idiot, because you've heard it yourself. Oh, you're a fool, as though it's an insult. But the truth of the matter is the fool was actually extremely clever. He was also witty and was able, in fact his job was, if he was in the court of the king or the baron or the lord or whoever, his job was the one person in that court who could get away with telling the king or baron or earl or whoever he was employed by the truth, telling him he was being a bit of a knobhead. And he got away with it without losing his head, because these kings and barons and that, in times gone by, had extreme power, literally life and death power. If a peasant had done something wrong, they could have them flogged or literally put to death. And it was the same with those who worked for them. So for the king, he had his lords and barons under him, but they still answered to him. It was said that his power was given to him as king from God himself. So he was next in line. He was the one that you listened to. He was chosen by God to be your king. And therefore you bent the knee and gave fealty to him. So they were terrified to ever tell him, hang on, that's a terrible decision. You've just, ruined me, or just done this, or just done that. You took us to war where we can't afford it. Whatever it was. But the king had absolute power. So what he would do would employ a jester, a fool, who would tell him to his face, you're being a knobhead. But he wouldn't say, you're being a knobhead like that. That would just get him to the gallows. No, he would do it in a witty way. He would tell a funny story, and then probably end it with, just like you, my lord. Like, in other words, saying, this guy was acting like a knob, and that's just like what you're doing. And it made the king think. It planted his feet on the floor. And also, it played another important role for the king, because if the king made enough bad decisions, well, the lords and barons might get together and decide that getting rid of him would be a good idea. He didn't want revolt. So he was walking himself on a narrow line where it's, I'm in charge and have to make decisions, many life-changing decisions, taxes, going to war, defending the realm, all the rest of it. But at the same time, if I make too harsh a decision too often, I probably get away with one or two trip-ups, I'm learning the job, then the barons and the lords would gather together and depose him, which would mean he loses his life. So he was having to walk. But when you've got absolute power, you've heard the phrase that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You start to get in the mindset that you can't do any wrong. So he needed somebody to just put his feet back down on the floor and tell him, that's not a wise decision. And so that was the jester's job. But if the jester went too far, he was walking a thin line, because if he caught the king just in the wrong mood and then called him a knobhead or told him he's made an unwise decision, he could end up back in the gallows. So he was constantly thinking of inventive ways to tell the king the information he needed to know, but at the same time not losing his own life by doing it. So he was extremely clever. He was able to tell rhymes and stories and pattern and tumble, and all the time he's telling people, not necessarily just the king, but also barons and lords in their society. He was also a bit of a spy as well. He'd hear conversations because people had overlooked the fool. It would be, oh, it's just the fool, we can carry on plotting sedition. And it's like, oh, I hear that. So he'd go to the king and say, oh, but your baron so-and-so would see you dead, my lord. And like, you know, and then say something, and the king would be going, hang on, he's just given me an important message there. Maybe I better keep an eye on that baron or that lord. So he was constantly playing different roles, doing different things, was the jester, the fool. But over time, we've come to believe that the jester was just a deformed mockery of a man who was someone to be ridiculed, idiotic, if you like. And this is what happens now. Somebody will say, you're a fool. And the thing is that that's actually a compliment, because he had an extremely important role in the court and got paid damn well for doing it, as well as the fact that he was living in the castle and he was safe and he got fed and he was warm. But he was also extremely smart, extremely clever. He had to dance that narrow line. So when a woman tells you you're a fool because you've just called her out on some BS that she's been doing, or rejected her, you know, that's the big no-no for a woman. You know what the saying is, there's nothing as dangerous as a woman scorned. Well, if she's tried to hit her shot on you and she's attracted to you and you've gone, no, I don't want you, maybe she comes with a kid or a dog, just like a previous video, or some massive amounts of red flags. And again, let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do that series on red flags, and I will pick a certain amount of red flags, probably 2 or 3, or point them out, go into detail about them. If that's something you think you'll find interesting, let me know in the comments down below. If that's something you think you might find interesting and you're not subscribed, well, get yourself subscribed and hit the bell icon. That way you won't miss out on that great future content. And I really do think that they will be a great series of videos, but I will be putting them in among my daily uploads. I'm not just going to do them all and then put them all out in one go. I'll put them out, you know, as I come up and think of more red flags, I will make the video of it and upload it. So if that's something you think you're going to get something out of, like I say, let me know in the comments down below. But going back to the fool, so you've done something a woman doesn't, you've disagreed with her point of view. Well, that's a big no-no. You're not allowed to have your opinion. You've told her that, hey, no, you're a land whale and I don't like fat women. I'm only attracted to the to fit women. Or you're not allowed to have a preference. And she tells, oh, you're a fool. This is how you respond. Oh, thanks for that. That means a lot to me. Oh, it wasn't a compliment. Yeah, it was. Bye. Because that will do their head in. Absolutely screw with their brain. I called him a fool and he was smiling like an idiot as though I'd done something good. That's because now you understand what it is to be a fool, a jester. And also, you got that joke at the beginning, didn't you? What's a condom and a woman got in common? They both spend more time in your wallet than they ever do on your todger. And unfortunately, that is a true statement. Anyway, I'm going to go for a cup of tea. Like I said, there's no such thing as useless information, only a need to use it. And I've just given you some, I hope, very useful information. At least you know the etymology of the word or what it is behind it. Anyway, I'm going for a cup of tea. I honestly think I've deserved it. And I'll talk to you guys soon. You take care of yourself, because if you don't, who will? I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.